Hey, John, how are you
Hey,
doing?
good. How's it going?
Not bad. Be better if we had a little bit more audience today. Looks like a slow day here
What is
in the
what? This has got to be a slow
podcast.
day. You're showing something of what children shoveling something. What's going on here?
Yeah, so that looks like a pretty boring video and some old timey thing. Not real interesting, right? Doesn't seem like it's a whole lot of
Oh, let me guess. This is computer generated or something?
not even better. So check this out. It's just a day at the beach in 1896, colorized and enhanced
Oh
from
yeah.
deep learning.
Wow.
Pretty slick, eh? So
Yes.
this is less impressive until you even scroll down further and see that this is the original video. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's
It
pretty good.
has really like added a lot of, um, I guess, like restoration and quality and additional frames and everything to the video and colorized it.
Wow.
It's really impressive stuff.
Fantastic.
This is it's kind of borderlining that deep fakes conversation, but this is it being used for something positive. I think it's really cool that they're able to do this. I mean, if you just compare those two different video feeds together, that's some pretty amazing technology.
Well, that's a good way to introduce Eat Sleep Code. Then there you go.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to Eat Sleep Code, the official Telerik podcast. All one of you is watching us. I need to share. If you're the one sole person watching, we need to share this a little bit more and see if we can get some more people watching as we go over some crazy news threads like this one. This came up. I don't even know how it got popped up on my Twitter feed, but I'm following this person now.
Yeah, it's quite
I love
impressive.
AI stuff. This is just. Oh, looks like here's another one. This is new. They posted this one after I looked at it. But I mean, this is really cool that they're able to take these old videos and restore them. Makes me makes me wonder what they could do with like old home videos. That if you could run those through like a paid service eventually, that'd be pretty amazing to get back some of your old what is this 8 millimeter films
Oh yeah.
that might be on the verge of extinction in your closet.
Yep.
Pretty
That's
cool
when
stuff.
the family went to Disneyland in the Winnebago back in the '80s.
Exactly. What's amazing though is the noise restoration on that. They really picked the noise and the garbage out of it, fixed it up right. Anyway, cool stuff. That's where our AI technology's taken us. It can be a very creepy place at times, but when it's used for something like that, I'm
Hmm.
all for it. I think it's really cool.
Cool.
Next up is it looks like Visual Studio is getting some additional support that Visual Studio Code has already had. So you kind of get these cycles where Visual Studio has all these amazing features, and Visual Studio Code kind of takes some time to catch up with those things. And then
Right.
the other thing happens where the other end of the pendulum swinging, you've got Visual Studio Code breaking new ground and doing some really amazing stuff. And it's always been a better experience, I guess, for I guess much of the JavaScript ecosystem in general, but Angular especially. So it looks like those updates are coming to the Visual Studio for Windows and Visual Studio for Mac.
Hmm.
So if you're an
That's
Angular
good.
developer, make
Yeah.
sure you check that out. And I think you have to enable some of this new stuff. Um, don't recall why the Razor editor is highlighted here, but
That
I
looks
think
like the feature in VS. So yeah.
yeah, it looks like you need to enable some things on here, so it's worth kind of giving this a thorough read and see how to do that. And they're also enabling some new stuff on the Git experience. So if you're managing your source control through Visual Studio, that experience is getting overhauled as well.
Yeah.
I need to take a look at that again. There's no screenshots baked in here, but
So what I didn't see this beforehand, but it looks like this is actually VS catching up to VS Code.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's
So
usually, in my opinion, the other way around, but
yeah. Well, VS Code is built on TypeScript, and so it's obviously the engineers have a sensitivity to obviously everything that's in VS Code, because I would imagine they're writing VS Code code in VS Code. So uh, I would imagine TypeScript and other facilities around it are first-class citizens in VS Code, and it looks like they're bringing that to Razor in VS.
and on top of that, oops, I didn't mean to do that. The Git experience is something that is it's been in Visual Studio. Not many people know it's there. People are used to using that in Visual Studio Code. However,
Hmm.
it's up front and center in Visual
Sure.
Studio Code. You've got your Git UI just right up there on the left hand side of the editor, and not many people know that it's actually in Visual Studio as well. If you know where to look, it's called Team. What's the name of it? Team. I'm having a little brain outage
That's all right.
today.
My recommendation to people, if they're using Git, is to try and use it on the command line. That's really as much as we like to espouse visual design tools and all that, I think when you're living in especially a development tool, you get a lot more done on the command line than say through the visual representation of it. Now, obviously, there's some features that are faster, and if you can just right click and do that, but when it comes to Git, I would say the CLI that's there should be, first class citizen, obviously in the terminal. Visual Studio might fall or lag behind.
Team Explorer is what I was thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Everything is in Explorer in Visual Studio for some reason. And it's
That's
called
right.
Team Explorer because of some legacy reasons. In my opinion, it goes back to the Team, was it the Team Foundation server stuff?
Yep.
So they started baking it into that. So you'll find in the current version, it's under Team Explorer. But
Sure.
in the newer preview version that they're talking about in the article, there's actually a Git tab where some of this has transitioned to, and there's also some new UIs being built to replace some of the ones that already exist here. I think the experience here is pretty easy to use if you know where to look, and that I think is the problem. Discoverability is lacking a little bit, and hopefully that'll change when the new tools come out. But
Git
I
itself is a
the,
bit weird. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've always found it just a challenge just to wrap your head. I've learned it through force, not through desire. Is probably my best way to describe my relationship with Git.
And you can see I'm following best practices. I have 11 changes that need to be committed here. So I've definitely committed
with no comments, no updates, nothing. Perfect. Just accept the changes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I've commit often is not happening. I just changed all the files, change all the things, and then put a dot.
Hey, if you're gonna walk on ice, where you might as well dance, as they say, So
yeah, that's everybody's favorite Git commit, right? Period. Enter.
That's right.
Right. This one I thought was interesting. This is a problem I have not yet to run into.
No.
But apparently,
well, you know how to use Excel.
Well, yeah. I'm also not doing gene sequencing in Excel, so.
Well, it's because what happens is scientists, what's our it's AG. I mean, this is like grade 11. ACTG are the main sort of proteins, I guess, involved in coding genes. And I guess some of the genes are named in a certain way that they're getting. So when they do these massive reads of genes, they tend to export them as comma delimited files, CSV files. And the problem with that is that the CSV import capability in Excel isn't, well, if you haven't configured it correctly, can misinterpret certain things, certain strings as different types. So in this example, dates. And so I guess they're just basically, it's an article talking about a workaround a hack that these scientists had to use in order to get Excel to stop interpreting certain genes as dates. And they decided, and I think the wrong way, is to rename genes so that they don't provide these problems on the Excel side. I think all it just requires is just to understand how a CSV import works. But there you go.
Yeah, the headline there being scientists rename human genes to stop Microsoft Excel from misreading them as dates. Gotta love that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
the chat room is joining us here as well. We got quite an audience built up now, and Dan Siegel says that VS Code is actually offered as a Git diff option when you install Git on Windows. So that's how those two play so well together. I mean, they again that goes with discoverability. In my opinion, they package those things together. They expect people to use them together. So hopefully the Visual Studio proper will get that kind of treatment as well.
Okay.
So if we're not sequencing human genes in Excel, what are we doing? Intel, MIT, Georgia Tech deliver improved machine programming code similarity system. What is this?
Yeah,
John?
so Intel has been working on this. Actually, to be honest, Intel's not the only one working on this. But basically, the whole premise of this is that there are ways in which you can do programming through obviously machines and machine learning. And so what this is basically, as you know, there are typically common constructs you'll have scattered throughout any program that you'll write, any code base that you'll have. And so what this will do is basically take your code, analyze it, and then based on the inputs and outputs fed into data structures, etc., it will then allow you to auto-generate that code based on this type of system. So this is a combined work of MIT, Georgia Tech, and Intel. In fact, a lot of companies internally use systems like this. CodeGen is not a new thing. It's been done for a long time. It's typically based on templates, and you'll do, template variable matching and variable replacement for these sorts of things. There's a bunch of tools that we've used in a variety of different languages for a long time to do this. But the way this differs is that instead of doing just a lexical analysis and then generating out stuff, this will take inputs and outputs into account and generate code based off of those. There's a white paper that underpins this PR release, but I thought it was interesting. It's I hesitate sometimes to use things that are auto-generated, especially when it's kind of a black box thing, because you're not always guaranteed that. Well, unless you have obviously end-to-end testing, you're okay, but you're not always guaranteed that this code will be correct. There's one thing that it will operate and be error-free, but whether or not it's doing what you want it to do is another issue altogether. But this is something that came across my news feed and I thought was kind of interesting.
I love the what's next part. It says that their hopes are to improve productivity and eliminate some of the mundane parts of programming, like
Exactly.
taking down bugs.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think bugs are ever going to go away. I think bugs are just the nature of software. That software is made by humans, and humans are imperfect. And obviously, when this thing comes online, we won't have those problems. But I think that bugs will always exist.
Unless you're me, I don't write bugs.
Well,
I just don't do it.
That's right. So just something interesting.
I write perfect code every time. If you
Sure.
watch my stream, you know that for a fact. Being sarcastic as can be.
Hey, you said it. I didn't.
Visual Studio 2019 Preview 1.
Yeah.
16.8 Preview 1 released today.
Yeah, lots of stuff coming out, obviously in the Visual Studio space. Basically a minor update and a showcase of what's to come. It actually speaks to some of the Git integration stuff that we just talked about. So this allows you to do sort of conflict resolution and being able to see diffs and things of that nature. So this is always going to be less perfect than other tools that are out there, but it raises the bar in the sense of what's available for VS users. There's other features that are coming obviously in the previews as well, but these are some of the things that actually align well to what we just covered.
I could have used this today. I was trying to shake out some Git diffs, and I'd love to be able to just check the box. Give me that line of code. I think that's what they're doing there.
Yeah, the
They
nice thing about the previews is that they'll install side by side, no problem. So you can feel like instead of having to repave your machine, you can install these and use them. So yeah, lots of great features in there. You can do comparisons. You can obviously do syncs with remote repos, etc. So lots of good stuff coming there. There's a lot of Git oriented tools that I think do a much better job than this. I know
Mhm.
that there's tools from JetBrains, there's tools from other third parties, there's open source tools, there's free tools, etc. So using the combination of it, I think, is worthwhile.
Yeah,
New
Get
innovations around
Kraken is a good
XAML
one.
as well. What's that?
Get Kraken. That's
Yep, Kraken's very
another good one.
popular.
Good
Yep,
visualizations there.
yep. So a few improvements to XAML editing, which is always a plus, especially if you're targeting that as your markup. I've done a lot of XAML. I can't say it's my favorite, but it works. So you're targeting C++. Obviously, features continue to be innovated there. So good stuff. It's quite a long
Chat
list,
room,
actually.
let me know if my microphone is okay, if I'm not talking loud enough, or if I'm just not commenting a lot. I don't know the context of the remark there about me being quiet. I had my microphone muted for a moment because there was like kids like running around above my head for a second, so I tried to mute it. I don't know if it came back with the audio up to the
It
proper
might be that I'm
levels.
too loud and you're too quiet, and then the combination is the not the good thing. So
Visual Studio
so
Preview, lots of stuff coming. I
oh yeah,
wonder if they're going to decide to go with Visual Studio 2020. I don't know if I'd put 2020 as a moniker on anything, just because
yeah.
this year sucks.
Okay,
I'm going to go out and just say it, man. This year sucks. I think
all
most
right.
people will agree. I don't know if I would label anything 2020 these days. It's garbage. I don't know. It's like big fat thumbs down at the end of your like your product title. It's
Hmm.
like, hey, here's this thing. Oh, by the way, it's got 2020, so it's gonna suck.
Hmm.
What a terrible year.
So
I'm
lots
bringing
of
the show
things
down.
here. You can go through the list. Obviously, stuff that's coming down the pipe for the preview, and definitely worth checking out. And as I said, you can install pretty easily.
Ooh, pattern matching.
Mm-hmm.
Use pattern. You have a switch now. You get the little refactor light bulb, and you can
Mm-hmm.
flip it with use pattern matching. I love that. I like that. There's a couple of them right here. So these are refactor tools that are built in. I think, again, I'm going to go back to the discoverability argument and say that these things help developers find those new ways of writing
Sure.
code. Because you're
Sure.
used to writing, say, a link statement or a for each loop or some chaining of and ors together. And these refactor tools will like flip link to, from what is it's like explicit versus implicit or whatever, the link, the chaining versus like the SQL syntax. You
Oh,
can
right. Yep.
you can flip those. There's replace with pattern matching, use
Mm-hmm.
expression body
Mm-hmm.
for methods. All those things help us find those new ways, and you can toggle them back and forth. They're not unidirectional. So what's nice is if you have somebody on your team that's very old school and doesn't use, say, expression bodied members, you can click on one and turn it back and then read like the for each loop and then go, oh, okay, that's what they meant, and then just
Hmm.
flip it back over, or vice versa. Like that a
Mm-hmm.
lot. So very
Yep.
cool stuff.
Yeah, it's basically about expressing intent. I mean, if these two statements are semantically equivalent, then you should be able to represent it in the well, I guess it comes down to the fact that Git's going to see it differently than you do, but it could be that if they're semantically equivalent, demonstrate or show it in the way that the user expects to.
Yeah, lots of great tooling with Visual Studio these days.
Mhm.
What is HTTP? Is this HTTPX? Is it
Yes,
HTTP 10?
HTTPX.
How
So
is
this
supposed to
is
pronounce
a
this? I always get it wrong.
HTTPX. This is a utility. This is you can basically it's written entirely in Go, and it utilizes the retriable HTTP library, which is a library available for doing high throughput HTTP traffic, and it's built on Go, obviously. So lots of, I guess, goodness in that sense. If you're a fan of curl, this is kind of similar. This is basically being able to issue these requests via HTTPX, and then what's nice is they also have another tool which allows you to do security testing via YAML workflows. So this company that's working on these things is this obviously is an open source tool, but the company that's working on these things is actually providing these facilities. And this one came across my radar. I thought it was kind of cool. And Project Discovery is that group of folks that are working on these. So they have a security tool, as I said, based on YAML, but allows you to perform a variety of operations. And yeah, it does it quite performantly. So I wouldn't say that anyone's had problems with curl, but if you're looking to do it that's repeatable, scalable, etc., this might be a utility for you to check out.
And they have colorful ASCII art. So
why not?
That's always a plus.
Yeah, I do like the fact that they definitely say use with caution, because obviously people get into the bad habit of using these to do massive requests over a very short period of time, which is never a good thing. You could easily black out your own IP, so just be careful about that.
Get yourself identified as a botnet, is what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah,
right. You got to be
that'd
careful.
Be bad. Don't pretend to be a botnet. That's not going to help anyone. TypeScript. Latest release candidate for 4.0. I was just using some TypeScript this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So depending on what tools you install in Visual Studio, you get some very strange behaviors. I'll just say that. So make sure when you install. I made the mistake of installing, what is it, TypeScript build, the package TypeScript build, I think it's what it's called. And what it does, it automatically builds your TypeScript when you compile your .NET project. And then,
so it's part of the build process, and we'll do a TSC sort of command. Okay.
And then
TSC is the TypeScript compiler that fires off. So
yeah, I think it's TypeScript compile build. Maybe there's a NuGet package you can add.
Yeah, it's just part of the VS workflow. Yep.
Yeah, and I would actually suggest to not use that thing.
Okay.
I ended up needing like a very specific TypeScript tsconfig file, and then I was running it from the command line. I forgot I had installed the other thing, and it was ignoring the TypeScript config file. So then I had two TypeScript compilers running independently and getting various outputs. So if you do install it, remember that it's there in case you decide to drop to the command line and start writing custom configs. If you do that, uninstall it before you get to the stage I was at, where you're like, why did I just compile a bunch of JavaScript files I didn't want? It was interfering with some tests and some things, but I took it way off topic. So 4.0 is coming out. Is this the language itself, the compiler, both?
This is a combination of language capabilities and then obviously niceties around the tooling. So you can see a list there. These are some of the things that people have been asking for. I would say that it's not a massive release by any stretch, because we're going from 3.9. But basically, I would say that if you've been on the fence for a long while about TypeScript, whether you should be using it for your own internal development, I would say that it's now a good time to make the jump. TypeScript is solid. It's awesome. The tooling is fantastic, well supported, available in pretty much every IDE you can imagine. And as you can see, they're always innovating. So TypeScript is constantly being updated and adding new capabilities all the time. So I would definitely highly recommend checking it out. The nice thing about it, obviously, is that, if you're a JavaScript developer, I think you'll just find that it's sort of a nice evolution of what you've been doing before, and then adds to it some, obviously, structured typing around the sort of dynamic environment you would be used to. And along the way, it gives you nice language innovations.
So the $1 million question here is, when they say labeled tuple elements, is that tuple or tuple? Which
I say tuple.
are you on, John?
I say tuple
because it's like a couple. but you don't
Sure.
know if it's 2 or 3. So you can't
Well, it's
say
like
there's
GUID
2.
versus GUID. I've always said GUID.
We always go back and forth on these things like tabs and
GIF or
spaces.
GIF. It's GIF.
Yeah. It's tuple like couple.
Imagine
or
if they had
tuple like quadruple. You decide.
Yeah, imagine if they had done the "You say tomato, I say tomato" song in 2020. You know, so just for developers, let's call the whole thing off. So yeah, lots of language innovation there. Definitely worth checking out.
Data structures cheat sheet.
Yes. So this one is kind of cool as well. Oftentimes, if you're looking for a programming job, you're going to be asked to implement things like a linked list or to talk about, sorts, things like that. This is classic computer science. This is almost This is like your first year of computer science at university or college. And
All
what
the
this
things
is
forget
basic.
is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, some people never actually learned these things before, but I certainly did when I studied computer science. And this is basically a cheat sheet of all the sort of algorithms you'd have to know in a job interview or even on a practical level. So these allow you to see how to implement these things practically. Now, the reality is that most of us are using frameworks and languages that have these data structures built in, and you're not building things that have these terribly computationally expensive algorithms built because you've written them. But they talk about big O order notation, which is basically basically it gives you a sense of how computationally expensive an algorithm might be. And Algo Daily is a great website that shows you a lot of these examples. But the cheat sheet here, it goes step by step. You can see there's 9 lessons. The first one talks about arrays. Second one, there's ones around linked lists. There's ones around dynamic arrays. It basically gives you a help. It gives you a help about how to tackle these questions that commonly come up in job interviews. So if this is something where, if they're testing you of your knowledge of order n, they're testing you about, what sort algorithms might be better than others. This is probably the best place to go just to kind of review your knowledge of that.
Yeah, these are always super helpful. Like you said, you don't normally implement these things yourself, but
No, God, no.
What's really helpful is knowing what's happening under the covers
Sure.
of those operations. Because I give an example of this in some of my workshops and talks. The difference between, say, a sort and or order by in LINQ or in JavaScript has a similar routine these days, kind of like your LINQ libraries, sort versus aggregate or what is the other one? Reduce.
Oh, there's a ton. There's tons.
Yeah. So when to use those properly is very important. If you don't understand what those things are doing under the hood, you could use the wrong one, and then
Right.
you're hitting the, like this cheat sheet says, the wrong O of n problem.
So the graph is a classic sort of Dijkstra's algorithm type thing. Dijkstra is the name of I think Polish or Hungarian mathematician who came up with a traveling salesman sort of challenge of calculating edges and how long it takes to traverse them, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, lots of stuff. I did this all throughout my computer science courses, and you do a lot of graphs in computer science. So, but incidentally, there's probably a good example of why sorting algorithms come into importance is based on the fact that people have actually visualized their computational costs. So I sent you a link in the private chat there that basically not only visually but through sound demonstrates the cost or the efficiency of certain algorithms. There's a video on YouTube you can go check out that says basically how long does it take to sort various random data structures over time. And you can listen to it if you want, but it's basically showing you how these things work. So there's a variety of sorting algorithms out there. This one's been online for a long time. I remember seeing this years ago. I thought it was really cool. Actually, I got it. I actually implemented this in Kendo UI at one point. So I did this same thing using Kendo UI to visualize bar graphs. Just a little side there. But if you're at all curious as why these algorithms exist and the benefits of using one over the other, this will show you those in a very visual and audio way.
Yeah, it's funny you bring this up. This is the same tool that I use when I'm teaching that workshop I was telling you about. There's a section where we grab, we have an array of data, and I say, grab me the largest item in this array, and people immediately go to the sort. And they're like, we'll just sort it, and we'll grab the one that's at the top. And it's like, oh, but if you do that, and I play this video, like, you have to go through this process to get your largest item.
Yeah.
And you can actually do that in one pass if you use aggregate or reduce instead. And it's much faster.
Yeah.
So
it's what's funny is when you get to bubble sort, everyone starts face palming because bubble sort is so inefficient. But there's always some of these are really funky. Some of them I haven't actually heard about. But when you see them, like quick sort, etc., you're like, okay, I understand why we use some of these versus others.
Yeah, and then it's important to know, like, each of these has different, like, reasons to use them.
Oh, sure.
There's no, like, one size fits all. There's generally,
except bubble sort. Don't use bubble sort.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember.
It's the easiest one to understand, and everyone implements it when they're doing computer science, but then you realize quickly why it's so bad. So
I don't know if it's a merge sort or quick sort that I think it's quick
sort's usually quick-sort is your general good. There's bubble sort. Bubble sort's hilarious. Bubble sort's like the redheaded stepchild of all sorting algorithms. It's like, ugh. So, but quick sort is generally the most preferred method. There are other ones. I mean, these sorts assume that obviously, there's no weights between the bar. There's no relations other than just the value between bars. But sometimes, as you said, you need sorting algorithms that are particular on different inputs as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's where you get different algorithms for different types of calculations and things like that. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. That's why it's always important to know what those link operations and things are doing. So if there's that edge case, you might need something different, then maybe you need to reach for another library or something that doesn't.
Yep.
Introducing Roam.
Yes. So this is a tool that came across my radar. It's basically a combination of a linter, compiler, test runner, et cetera, for a variety of languages, primarily JavaScript, but others as well. And it's got a very ambitious title, or rather, I guess, case, which is basically trying to replace a lot of common tools that you see in the internet today, used in web development, such as lint, ESLint, Babel. I think Webpack would be up there as well. I don't know. I don't know if that's a reasonable goal or a realistic goal, but it is something that they're trying to look at, see if they can implement. And it's all about implementing it in their way. So it's like a front end sort of tool chain framework. And so this is something that you can check out. I don't know how good it is. I just came across my radar, so I thought I'd mention it.
I just wanted to dive into the Git history for the project just for a second to see if it was built today.
Yeah.
Come on, John. Come on.
That's
We're
right.
all quarantine folks.
That's fine.
I wanted to see if Rome was built in a day. Come on.
Yep. It's okay. So yeah, definitely worth checking out.
Laughing hysterically. We just can't see them or hear them.
Okay.
But I know they're really just enjoying that joke.
Awesome.
It's dad jokes all day here on Eat Sleep Code. No, this looks like a cool tool, John.
I don't know. I don't know if it's good or not. So I have to use it. I haven't used it yet.
Enough that if we had enough JavaScript, JavaScript fatigue, that if we could replace and condense some of these things, then maybe it's a good thing.
Yep.
So very interesting. Was not built in a day, by the way. Just joked. It's funny to me, guys. Here we go. That's for you, John.
Okay.
Right. So I'm open sourcing the I Have Been Pwned code base.
So Have I Been Pwned is a website that Troy Hunt launched a few years ago, where you can basically do a search for a variety of email addresses and get notified of if you've been compromised, if you've been in a data breach. Troy goes through the effort of trying to find these things, and then once he discovers them, puts them in this service as a white hat service. So this is basically, for good, and letting people know that, you may have to change your credentials. What Troy's often been asked to do is to open source it. And so for that intent, it looks like Troy's going to kind of take up the challenge and provide the code for this. Have I Been Pwned is more than just a service. It's integrated deeply within a lot of other tools you might use. For example, like 1Password, for example, uses it to see if you're adding a credential that's already been compromised. It's not only been used, but it's actually a great case study for how to actually implement a site using Azure and Cloudflare. And one of the best things I've always been impressed by Have I Been Pwned is the fact that it's so scalable. This thing gets picked up by news companies all the time. And Troy's blogged about this before, where he sees these massive spikes in his site's usage, and he just constantly talks about how the combination of Cloudflare and Azure, et cetera, has always been a benefit to him, to basically provide something that is basically his own work. And so rather than paying thousands of dollars to kind of stand up servers and stuff, he just uses these facilities which are readily available, and it comes down to cents, literally cents of cost for him to support this massive amount of scale. So, in terms of providing more and more benefit, I guess, looking at open sourcing Have I Been Pwned.
So it's got kind of a two-prong approach. It's open sourcing this useful resource, and then it's also showing best practices for building something distributed like this with Cloudflare and Azure. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is the one that Google uses as well. They've added a password feature to Chrome.
I think they use their own. I don't think they use this.
Okay.
Yeah. What's really impressive is like governments use this, right? Like, so the U.S. government uses this. I think a variety of other governments use this. A lot of technology companies utilize this. They integrate it to, if you log in, for example, or you create a new account, he's got an API that supports this. It will do a check against this saying, hey, it looks like you're using a reused credential, or it looks like you're using a credential that's already been compromised. You may want to consider using something else. So end users benefit by searching their own and then seeing, okay, I've been in a breach, or I have a duplicate password, or et cetera, et cetera. And then companies benefit by encouraging strong security practices by, first checking to see if your password is actually reasonable, and then secondly to see if it's actually been posted on the dark web somewhere. So yeah, I think it's great, and I think it's just, Troy's always been helping out the community, so I think it's just another example of his good work.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the same combination on my luggage.
I know. The old Spaceballs reference there.
Gotta throw that in.
I know.
Right?
That is not my password, but I always found it funny when people would reference that. I'd make that joke and no one ever got it either. So
you've been hanging out with the wrong people.
I know.
I've got to watch that with my kids, because I threw a Spaceballs reference.
Okay.
One of them the other day, and they didn't get it. I was like, oh,
right.
You just lost your geek card. You have to open that card properly.
Right.
Angular roadmap.
Yeah, nothing new here. Just wanted to. Yeah, I mean, there's rumblings of the roadmap and getting updates, et cetera, et cetera. They've recently updated it, and looks like they're going to add, features to the library that will obviously add goodness to the development experience. So, in progress and future roadmap items, obviously TypeScript 4 is coming, so they're going to be adding support for that.
Yeah,
I would imagine they'll be ready for the release.
TypeScript and how there's a new version coming.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Ivy, you guys have talked a lot about on the Telerik blogs. Obviously, that's a new feature in terms of the way in which Angular is utilized and built. Yep. So, yeah, Ivy's the big thing. Other innovations include things like, stuff that's coming down the pipe, including, Webpack 5, for example, or strict typing, etc. So yeah, good stuff there. It's always good to keep an eye on roadmaps. Every company should publish one. If they don't, then, they might want to think about doing it, because it gives your users a sense of direction. That's why we call it a roadmap. But also it gets people excited about what's coming down the pipe. And I think that, I always try and keep an eye on roadmaps because that can always, pique your interest in something that you may have ignored for the past little while that you may think is dead, or, not realize where they've been and where they're going. So roadmaps are great.
Yeah. It's also helpful to, let users know they're being heard. A lot of times with us anyway, our roadmaps are based on things that people keep asking for.
Right.
So if we get a lot of, requests, through our feedback portal or email or those type of things, for a certain feature to be added, then, when we decide to actually do that, we put it on our roadmap, and
Mhm.
then people can track that information, through our feedback portal and stuff that's linked to the roadmap. So that helps show folks that when they ask for something, we're listening and we're integrating that in our product. So I think Angular probably runs by the same type of
Oh, sure.
theories here. They
Yeah.
listen to the community quite a bit. They have a lot of GDEs out there that are doing a lot of developer relations work for them and bringing
Mhm.
a lot of feedback into the ecosystem, which is great.
Mhm.
Good stuff, John. It's another week of this wonderful year of 2020. That's all. That's all we've got for today, folks.
All right.
But it was always great chatting with you, John. No matter what
Yeah,
the year,
likewise.
what the circumstances.
Mhm.
Hope all is well where you are, and we'll be back next week for another show once we hunt down some interesting topics for the next week. Any last words, John?
Oh, just, make sure you stay safe. Use this as a good opportunity to learn. I mentioned that last week. Everyone's kind of just, using this as an opportunity to improve themselves. I read just recently that, the health, the overall health of nations are improving because of our lockdowns, etc. So as a developer, I would encourage anyone just to, take this as an opportunity to learn something new. We're all not going anywhere, so might as well just, fire up a Pluralsight course or take a coding test or use one of the links that we've sent you and go check it out for sure.
And John is over at Octopus Deploy. Anything new going on over there in your neck of the woods?
Yeah. Speaking of roadmaps, we got one. We're actively working towards a feature that we're adding for Octopus Deploy, which is called Config as Code. This is basically the ability to describe what you want your project deployments to look like. So you'll use a markup file, like for example HCL, and use that to describe what you want your projects to look like. So that's a feature that we're building. This is our set of releases that we come out with, but always good stuff. Just you can download a free trial. You can check it out at octopus.com if you want. Lots of great stuff that we're adding there. This is infrastructure, so we try our best to impress what these features look like. But at the end of the day, we sit in the back room in amongst the servers, just releasing code. That's all we do. It's nothing flash, nothing fancy. Certainly not UI controls like Telerik, but yeah, infrastructure is not always the sexiest thing in terms of screenshots, but we try our best.
Not always pretty until it doesn't work, and you have
that's right. Yeah, the error messages are beautiful.
Error messages.
Yeah, that's right.
And, saving the company time and money through getting deployments correct.
Yep.
Very, very important to the bottom line. And then we've got a brand new Telerik UI for Blazor release. And there's a lot of things in here that people have been asking for. We've got the editor, the obligatory WYSIWYG editor for Blazor is finally out. People were asking for that big one. Everybody wanted to have the editor there. And we have a brand new demo site, which is just really, really nice. So make sure you stop by Telerik.com, check those out as well. John, have a great week, my friend. And
thanks,
we'll talk to you soon, chat room. We've got shows coming up on Eat Sleep Code all week. This Thursday, we have a big Silverlight sunsetting event. So if you are a Silverlight developer and want to say goodbye.
If you are a Silverlight developer.
If you have apps that need to be migrated from Silverlight, tune in, see what we're talking about. I'm sure we'll have lots of content geared towards where to go next. So that is coming up. I think it's an all-day event on Thursday this week. So make sure you follow the channel. that's just the easiest way to do it. Is click that follow button up at the top of the UI here on Twitch, and you should be able to get it there. Checking the calendar while we, maybe it's next Thursday. I don't see it on the official calendar here, but yeah, it might be the next week out.
Hey, if you subscribe, you get a notification. Easy as
If you
that.
subscribe, you'll get a notification. But that silver light sunsetting is coming very, very quickly. So I'm sure you've all been preparing. If you're in the, if you have apps that require Silverlight, I'm sure you know that this is coming. So
I'll make sure to register for that event with my GeoCities and CompuServe email addresses.
Ouch! Shots fired. Actually, it's Thursday, August 13th. So oddly enough, it's not on our main calendar. But you will get notified when the stream does go live. So thank you for sharing that in the chat room. I appreciate that. Yeah, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Like I said, it's an all-day thing. We've got lots of great guests lined up. Come in and see what we're talking about.
You need 7 hours to talk about Silverlight?
We'll probably be talking about
Sorry, that's
Maui
the last shot I'll shoot.
And Blazor and all sorts of other things.
I would just be me for 7 hours looking at the screen. What are you doing? Let's move on here.
It's going to be a history.
Have you looked at the internet? There's other ththings to do.
We're going to teach everybody how to migrate their Silverlight apps to Flash. That's what we're going to do.
Jeez. All right. Tune in.
Stay tuned into the channel this week. Thank you all for joining us for the dad jokes, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.